Am I connected to myself today? Am I feeling whole today? Where are my missing pieces today? Because whatever's missing within us, within 10 minutes of our child waking up, we're going to dump it on them.
Wow.
Yeah. Every time I see something wrong in what my child is doing, it's because I'm feeling wronged in my own life or that I'm not good enough. So when I'm not feeling good enough, I see everything wrong in my child. But I'm coming from a superfluous sense of, gratitude and wellness. Suddenly they can do no wrong. Right? It's projection.
Welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness podcast. We have the legendary Dr. Shefali in the house. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So excited.
Very excited. I've been introduced to you many times by dozens of people to have you on, so I'm very glad that we finally got you in the studio. And you've been doing a lot of work with parents and their kids for a long time. Is that right?
Yes. And it's not so much because I'm, in love with parents particularly. It's because I realize how important those first years are. And as a therapist, I have been working with mostly adults, but then I would notice that no matter who the adult is, we inevitably spend all our time on their childhood. So then I figured if I want to make a difference in this world, and I always knew I wanted to write, then I need to go to the core of the issue. And the core of the issue is not the child. It's the parental unconscious. So if I can help the parent discover how unconscious they are and shed light on how messed up they are, and then help them to evolve into their highest self and really raise the parent, because all these parents haven't been raised well. They were raised unconsciously. So if I could help them raise themselves, then we have a hope for them to not mess up their kids so much.
So you're like the parent whisperer.
Well, kind of.
You're
I
like,
don't know.
Parents are like dogs, and you're teaching them, right?
You're saying that. I didn't say that.
you're like training them to be the leader of the pack or something, right? You're like the...
Well, just to become conscious of how unconscious they are. And this is serious, the first 10 years of a kid's life, that's it. Then you've irrevocably damaged them. Yes, that's it. So if you can get the first 10 years, somewhat right, and if I can help parents to somewhat course correct after the first 2 years that they've already messed up, then we have some hope, to create or to help create a future for their children that's whole and wholesome.
Is there any parents that actually can do it right? Is there a way to do it right so your kids aren't messed up? Or are we all messed up no matter how much love we receive, how much attention we get, or how much people care about us? If our parents missed one game, do we hold on to that as kids, that they didn't care about us no matter how hard they tried?
Well, it's not about perfection, and it's not about not messing up. So that's not the point.
Got it.
The point is to become curious about how the mess up teaches us how to become more evolved, how to become more authentic. Every parent will mess up. It's just an irrevocable truth of life. How can you not? So we're here to discover how to become more conscious. The only way to discover how to become more conscious is to see the unconsciousness. So what I really help parents do is penetrate their unconsciousness and transform that into consciousness.
Got it.
So it's not about avoiding unconsciousness. It's about living your most authentic truth, seeing the mess up and the chaos, and walking on the landmines to then evolve.
Right. And you grew up in India, and you moved here when you were 21, is that right? Or in your early 20s? And what's the different culture like from India? I've been to India, but what's it like having parents? What's, I guess, the general theme of parenting there versus here in the U.S. or in North America?
Well, it's different on so many layers, but it's becoming uniform because the Western model seems to have overtaken the world, right?
Got it.
So there's a Starbucks and a McDonald's everywhere. So with parenting and so with cultural ideations. But I think if you go deeper, the differences are really about how the East looks at the self and how the West looks at the self. And that's why my work integrates the Eastern and the Western perspective, because I grew up in the East, which has such a different ideology around what the self is, right, influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. And then the West has this very iconoclastic, individualistic, doing, achievement-oriented ideation of the self. And both have their place, but they both need to be integrated to create the whole self. So that's what I really try to do with my clients and in my work is, yeah, we need to do and we need to strive in a Western sort of way. But if you're not going to underpin that with a deep philosophical Eastern understanding of impermanence and transience and
acceptance
of the as is, then you're going to screw it up. So to do both is really to have the dove fly,
Ooh, the doves fly. Is that Prince?
I just stole. Yes, just plagiarized. Yes.
Is that Prince though? Right? Yeah.
It is.
Now, is it possible to raise kids without fighting with them?
Without fighting with them.
Yes.
Well, the fight, we can fight with people without ostensibly fighting, The battle doesn't have to be in
screaming
arms.
And yelling and physical.
So what the real battle between a parent and child, which is more insidious than a yell and a fight, that's clear, is the battle of egos.
Ooh.
Is the battle of my way versus your way.
I'm right, you're wrong.
I'm right, you're wrong. I'm
father,
the higher,
parent,
exactly. And that's the toxicity of this paradigm, which I'm trying to shift. Because the traditional paradigm was I'm greater than, I'm the authority. And
I'm the teacher, you're the student.
Absolutely. And you are here to do unto my command. And why did I have you if not that, right? Well, I didn't raise you to question me and to defy me. No, I only have had you. Of course, I won't admit this to the world because I'm going to pretend like I'm here to raise a spirit. But really, the reason why I had you was just to follow me. So I can finally feel full and complete because my parents never made me feel that. But I'll have you and you'll be my minion of sorts. I won't admit this to anyone. But,
Or I just forgot to wear protection and...
Right. And then you're definitely going to be my minion because I made a mistake.
Yes.
I didn't even think about it. So now you've come to mess up my life. You better do it my way and make me feel so good about myself so I can tell all my friends. And you need to be the idealized version of everything I was never. Right? That's why I'm having
pressure on kids, huh?
Yeah, but that's what it is. That's what the prevailing and pervasive parenting model is. And this is the toxicity in our culture. This is the mental illness because it's all separatist, right? So what we're seeing in the world today, the separation between right wing and left wing or different cultures or different colors stems from this toxicity in the parent-child dynamic. That's why I do the work I do, because this is the core. You understand? This is it. This is where it starts. Where the parent tells the other, you are not me. I cannot learn from you. You're separate from me. You will follow me. So what does that lead the child to do when the child goes out in the world? The same attitude of dogmatism and separation, authority and hierarchy, right?
This is what's right. This is what's wrong. And I'm going to take this belief into the world.
Right. It's not oneness. The parent and child are not one. So what I try to do is shift the parent to understand that the child, if anything, is your teacher. And not in a subservient way where you're giving up all charge, because that's what parents, they can't stand. But it's truly to unionize the dynamic. Because when the child feels that they have come into this world with authority and sovereignty, then they will honor the authority and sovereignty of others, right? But if their authority is not tolerated, why should they tolerate the authority of others?
Right.
So this is where it starts.
What's the perfect approach to being a parent? You just had the child, came home from the hospital or wherever you had the child from, and the child is developing in its first few years. How should you raise a child before it's able to verbally communicate?
Yeah.
How do you raise a child to set yourself up and the child up for the best, most harmonious relationship?
Right. Well, ideally, since you're talking idealistically, before you have a child,
okay, let's hear it.
You need to, really think of your motivation to have a child, because we don't think it through. We think this is how a family should be, and this is your number 5 on your checklist. Yes. Right? Especially for a woman.
Or it's, I'm getting older. I've got to do it now.
Completely. And I'll be scorned or looked on as selfish, especially a woman. So she has a lot of pressure. So she's already motivated by the wrong reasons or by the deluded reasons, by fear. Right? She's not motivated by the ultimate reason, which if really she was motivated by, she may not have a child. The ultimate reason is, can I be so evolved in my own self that I truly feel I can guide the spirit to evolve into their true self? Wow. So if she truly answered that honestly, she would not
There'll
have
be no
a child,
kids in the world.
which wouldn't be a bad thing for a while. Wouldn't you
Right.
think? A
Yeah.
pause,
Yeah.
just a breather, let the earth just breathe.
Let the world gain consciousness, awareness.
Before, and why are we continuing to do it wrong? We're all just doing it wrong. Why don't we just take a pause? It isn't a terrible idea. Get it right, align yourself with consciousness, and then start again. But no, we're so egoically obsessed. We're like, no, I have to have my kid because I have to leave my legacy of disease and mental illness. I must leave my
Suffering
particular
and-
stamp of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because that's what we're doing.
Unworthiness
Unworthiness.
and- yeah.
Why not? Why not?
I'm unworthy, so I'll create the same thing in someone else.
Because mine is a special kind of unworthiness,
Right.
you know?
No
It's
one else understands
yeah,
me.
this particular kind of
I'm special.
self-flagellation
Right.
that I'm an expert at.
Yeah.
You know, so no, I think ideally we should all take a pause for a
Wow.
couple generations, become conscious human beings, and then really mindfully think as a community, if the community is ready for another child. You know, this should not be an individualistic enterprise anymore. You know, children growing up in nuclear families is also part of the disease. You know, you're putting so much pressure on two fragile, if they're two, one fragile human being. It's too much strain. You know, we've lost the whole collectivist mentality of raising children in a village. You know, Hillary Clinton got it right. It does take a village, and we've lost that. So when you ask me what's different about Eastern and Western, that's another way the East is different. There is a more communal orientation and the raising of a child. It's more in a joint system. It's more kinship,
Extended
kindred.
family.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like,
And then you come here to the West, you know, my girlfriends in the East, they're appalled at how much pressure I have in the West. I don't have any help. Not
right,
extended
it's like
families,
isolated.
too
No one
much
else can
pressure.
touch my baby. They're going to
So
get
no
him
one's going to
sick.
touch my baby. So my baby gets all my crap. There's no hope that there'll be mediation from anyone
Right.
to help. Right? And
No other perspectives.
no other perspectives, no multitude of roles and influences. And not only is the illness passed on, but the parent breaks under that. So not only does the child suffer, but the parent is truly suffering in the West because the pressure is too much.
So much pressure.
Yes.
If there's no family around, if they're leaving home or whatever. And then with the divorce rate, I don't even know, is it more than 50% now? Is it?
Well, it's close, yes. So
Something like
imagine,
that.
you know, like the analogy that many people give is that you won't get on a plane ride if there was a 50% chance of survival. Yeah.
Crashing? Hell no.
Right.
That's one of the things I'm
So-
afraid of getting married for, right?
Yeah, you should question. You should question these institutions. So I think my book and my work is not about putting more pressure on parents. It actually liberates parents to penetrate the deluded ideations we're living under. You know, the whole idea of success that we put on children. It's deluded.
Pressure.
The pressure to achieve. It comes from fear and lack. So when I teach parents that you're just operating out of fear and lack because you're not complete, you want something to post on Facebook, you need a medal because you never got it, or you need to prove it to your parents that you're still a good person, and you're using your children. Once parents get it in an epiphany, then they release their children of it, and now they have less anxiety. When I teach them about the superficiality of grades and how grades are just a hair's breadth of the whole potential,
Yeah.
now I've released the parent from pressure. Now they can truly connect with who it is their child is. Otherwise, parenting is all about pressure, pressure, pressure. Right? So the connection is coming undone. And if the child is not connected to, they grow up wandering the earth,
Yeah.
addicted and searching.
Yeah. So, okay, we first have, in an ideal world, we first ask ourselves if we should have the baby.
Right.
If we're aware, conscious.
We most
able
likely
to-
would not, but say,
Right.
Right.
But say we've done the work.
Okay.
And we're like, all right, I'm not perfect, but I'm aware.
Okay,
And
good.
I've
Good.
processed a lot of my
Good.
past hurts,
good.
suffering I've been through. I've forgiven everyone in my past. And most importantly, I've forgiven myself
Yes.
for all the things I've done.
Right.
And I'm aware. I meditate. I've got my routines. I
Yeah.
still get crazy every now and then,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty conscious, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I have a baby. I decide to have the baby. Now, what's the first 2 years like? How should I set up my life and structure this relationship with my child in the early stage?
Yeah. Then you prepare yourself to encounter one of the most profound relationships of your life, where you will be tested at the most highest level of spiritual lessons ever, which is now this being came from you, but you'll be tested that it's not yours.
Really? What do you mean?
They came through you, but it's not yours. So you'll be tested in not possessing another being, even though it's yours.
Even though you created it, but it owns itself, is what you're saying.
Yes.
You don't have ownership over a human being.
Yes, you barely created it too. But say it came through you and you did something.
Yes.
You have to now release that.
Ownership.
Because now you have to pay homage to the fact that this is a being that actually you called into your life for you to grow from. So you reverse everything.
So it's not growing from you.
Right.
You're growing from it.
Right. If you want to do it the right way.
So you're creating a being that is now going to be your greatest teacher.
Yes, you didn't create it though. You have
to. Okay, it's coming through you. Sorry for the language. What's the language?
Because parents think they created it.
Okay, what's the language?
You call this being into your life.
You called this being in your life, and it came from you. It came from your being. Okay, yes. But you didn't create this being.
Well, because if you think you created it, there's a problem there. You're not a parent, so you don't see this side of crazy,
yes.
But you have to see parents to know how crazy they are.
I have two crazy parents, so
right.
I mean, I'm
they
pretty
think they created you, and that's
right.
why they did all sorts of things to you. They brainwashed you, and they took over your life because they think they created you. That's the problem. And I'm trying to burst this ideology. I tell parents, no, you didn't create anyone. Like, if you created a being, you should be curing cancer. Like, if you were that phenomenal. You're not. This is just the process of life.
You had birth.
Being done to you. Okay. And you call this being into your life as a way of saying that you had some ownership or some partnership with who you called. Because the minute the child doesn't turn out who they want, they're like, where did this child come from? I'm like, no, you call this child to learn lessons. Every relationship in our life is called for the higher and the more sacred purpose of evolving. No more so profound as the one with your child. So now, but because it's an infant and infantile and dependent on you, it activates the ego, you see, of the parent.
Yes.
This is the spiritual test. So as it's activating the ego, where you now get this, unremitting love that you've never received before, right? This child looks at you with adoring gaze. It's a trip for the parent.
Yeah.
It's a huge ego trip.
Of course.
But this is the spiritual test that I challenge parents with. Like, you're watching your ego rise, but at the same time, it's like you can drive in New York, you can drive anywhere. Here, it's like your ego is going to rise like never before. And this is the place where you're tested to release the ego. Right now, when you learn the art of the doing, this is where the East and West come so beautifully in this journey together. You have to do for the kid. You have to do. You have to wake up. You have to feed. You have to change. You have to clean. You have to earn money. You have to pay for the baby. It's a lot, right?
Yes.
So the doing is in full mode like never before. Yet, the infant specifically at that age asks you to be with it in this silent, non-verbal communion way like no one else will. So here you're juxtaposed with the doing and the being. And these are the lessons of a spiritually conscious and awakened life, right? How do we do this podcast right now in the doing of it, but yet we have to connect and we have to be and we have to be present.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what children teach us. Yes, mommy and daddy, do for me and protect me and send me to the greatest school. But if you're not with me in the present moment, then you've missed the whole boat.
And that's when I'm going to scream and get your attention and punch you and lash out.
So it's a spiritual training. This is one of the greatest spiritual trainings we can ever have.
I can only imagine.
Because with another adult, if you're in a partnership with your spouse or your partner, the ego doesn't roar with possession. So you're not tested like that because your partner's already told you, hey, you don't really possess me.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Yeah.
You may try, but you can't get away with it. But with the infant, the ego will roar. I created it.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the spiritual test, which is the most profound. And if you can pass it, then you release it in all other areas of your life. If you can do it with your kid and release your child and know that your child is a sovereign being and you've participated in that and they've helped you become more a sovereign being and you're just guiding each other, a child, and you can see that you're just guiding them, nothing more, ushering them. Then you've released your ego in most everything else.
Wow.
So in this way, the parent-child relationship becomes the spiritually regenerative relationship of your life. The one where you awaken.
That's what it should be.
It should be.
Okay. What is the role of fear in parenting? Because I feel like there's a lot of fear with parents.
Omnipresent. It is the role greater than anything else.
Why are parents so afraid?
Because they enter it with lack and they enter it incomplete. And now the child becomes the bedpost for who it is they are. So if the child messes up, it's like, now I'm really messed up. Like, now I've lost all hope.
I mess up and my kid is messed up.
And my kid is now
I have
and the
nothing.
mirror is so clear, right? So we're using the children to fulfill us. Therefore, the child, there's a lot at stake here. It's not a joke.
And if they let their parents down, they let themselves down, they don't achieve, they let their parents down, and then it's just like they won't have that acceptance,
breakdown.
They won't have that acknowledgement.
Yes.
And I feel like the thing we long for the most, at least as a grown child, because I feel like we're all just kids, is acknowledgement.
Yes. To be seen for who it is you are, not who it is I want you to be.
Exactly. The reason I do my podcast sitting across from someone is because everyone else does shows sitting side by side. And you can get away from the eyes. For me, I want to connect and be present.
Yeah,
with
it's
someone
a different energy, isn't it?
It's a different energy than just being next to someone and being talking like this. And once in a while, I'll pay attention to you.
Right.
But I'm going to go back over here because it's more comfortable.
Right.
But really seeing someone and being present with someone, I feel like is challenging.
Right. You have to show up.
To practice.
You have to be here fully.
You have to be fully raw.
Yes.
And I remember feeling like, as a kid, like just never being seen. I was the youngest of 4. I had 2 parents. They were working 3 jobs, like constantly trying to provide. They probably shouldn't have had it,
Right.
us. They were like 19 or whatever when they had their first kid. And I remember just like all I wanted was acknowledgement. And I think a lot of kids feel that way. It's like we just want acknowledgement, just want to be seen. It's probably why we do a lot of things as adults, for acknowledgement, to be seen.
So even the parent who's taking care, like you were clothed and fed. So the parent is thinking, I've done my bit.
I've done my job.
Right, but it's not about the doing. That's what every kid will tell you. I don't care that you
have a
send
roof
me to
over
the
my head, or you got
send me to
food.
the fanciest schools.
Yeah.
And you had a yacht that
That's
we went.
what you
That's
wanted
what you
for me.
wanted.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, all I wanted was to know that I was being seen for who it is I am, not to fit into your agenda and your image of a good life. And we use our children, to fit into our idea. So they never get seen.
To look good on our Instagram page, to
So then
talk about to our friends.
Exactly. So now they're going to have kids because they need to be seen. You see, this is why we keep having kids in the unconscious way, waiting to be seen. I know, it's
This
so
is amazing.
dismal. But it's the truth,
Let's just end the human race right now. No more babies. No.
Well, babies, it's the most sacred thing you can do. So better think about it.
Not creating life, but calling life through you.
Yes.
Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Yes. And it's not a joke. You can't take it lightly.
I'm not trying to make it a joke.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make sure I don't say creating because we're not creating.
Yes.
I mean, it's the most sacred thing in the world is bringing life in the world,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And yet we take it for granted, I think,
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes.
I mean, one of my best friends just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and I was one of the first people to see his daughter in the hospital. I was just moved to tears by the calling forth of this being.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful, and yet I was also like worried for him at the same time, because I was like, I want to make sure you guys are set up in a conscious way for everything moving forward.
Yes.
And so I think people need to be conscious about this.
And you also open yourself up to the magnificence of this unknown thing called the universe. And you've put your hands and you've surrendered to this force. And to recognize that you are partnering with a force, right? Then it creates humility in you. So you're not this overarching ruler and monarch over your child. No, you didn't create this. It's coming through with this force energy. So commune with that force and pay homage to it in every age and stage of your child's life.
Yeah. If you're a parent, what's the ideal thing that you should think of first thing you wake up in the morning in regards to the relationship you want to have or the way of being you want to be with that child or children? Is there something you should think about, a process, an awareness, whether it be first thing in the morning or throughout the day or whenever, but what's the thing every single day that a parent should ask themselves and be aware of?
I think the question they could ask themselves is, am I connected to myself today? Am I feeling whole today? Where are my missing pieces today? Because whatever's missing within us, within 10 minutes of our child waking up, we're going to dump it on them.
Wow.
Yeah. every time I see something wrong in what my child is doing, it's because I'm feeling wronged in my own life or that I'm not good enough. So when I'm not feeling good enough, I see everything wrong in my child. But I'm coming from a superfluous sense of, gratitude and wellness. Suddenly they can do no wrong. Right? It's projection.
Yeah. Same thing with relationships,
Absolutely.
intimate relationships, right?
Absolutely.
When
Exactly.
we're feeling insecure about what we're creating, we're putting that on someone else.
And this parent-child relationship, there's no break, for the first 7, 8, 10 years.
You mean a baby can't just sustain itself and just be on its own? Just get an apartment?
Not entirely. So it's like such a deep marriage. Like with your partners, you can take a break. You can have a cigarette whenever you want, go for a glass of wine. No such thing with the child. You're there. You're fully there.
So how do we remove the ego as the parent and say, okay, baby crying, screaming all day long or whatever, not doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
How do we remove the ego and come from this place of like love and being and like it's got to be so challenging with all the pressures that you're facing from your family or your parents or the grandparents' opinions and
yes
husband or
So first,
wife.
The way I define ego is not simply a narcissistic desire to power over. The way I define the ego is that when we were young, we weren't seen for who it is we are, correct? So as a result of that, we had to survive. Now, in order to survive, we had to contort and distort and pretzel ourselves into a version of who our parents wanted us to be.
We had to fit into
just to
that.
fit in, just like survive. Please feed me, take care of me. Like
don't be mad at me all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, it's the worst.
Correct.
Don't scream at me.
Yes. What have I done? Right?
Just be myself.
I just woke up. Yeah. Or I just spilled milk. So the nucleus, the core of the authentic self is now being denied and is increasingly invisible. So it needs an invincible shield to protect because it's disintegrating. There's nothing inside. So it creates this false self. And I call the false self the ego. The ego was created to survive, but eventually will create suffocation. So we need to kill the ego. Now, how do we kill the ego? We first have to accept that it exists, recognize each time it comes up, love it for the service it's provided because it kept us surviving. But now we need to understand that its core came from fear. It was created because I was scared of being yelled at, right? So I created some badass rebellion or I created some whimpering obedience. Whatever I created was false. It was created out of fear. So now when my child screams and I go back into that fear and then I develop my ego, whatever the ego is, either I become too genuflecting toward my child and subservient and indulgent, or I become badass rebellion thinking my child is my parent, but it isn't. I'm like acting in ego. I'm acting in false self. So to recognize in those moments when it comes up and then to penetrate it, it takes a lot of introspection. You need the help of someone at first to do this because you don't even know. You see, the ego is your second skin. You don't even know you're walking around with it. So it takes someone from the outside to go, you're in fear. That's your ego. That's a mask. You're protecting something in you. It's not the truth. And as you release the ego, only through accepting the ego, understand? It's the counterintuitive. You can't
being
just,
aware of it first.
Yeah, you can't just kill it. Then you emerge into your true self of connectivity and lack of fear.
Right.
And this is why children will teach us how to be who it is we are by showing us our ego. Every moment you'll be seeing your ego as a parent. If you're willing to see it.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating you say this because, not to go too off track, but my new book is called The Mask of Masculinity.
Wow.
It's about the mask that men wear that we're not even aware of that hold us back from having vulnerable, loving relationships.
And it starts when parents tell their boys, right?
Exactly.
Don't cry or don't be a girl.
Don't be a girl, don't be a pussy, don't be whatever it is.
Don't be a wimp.
Suck it up.
So you begin to disconnect from your feelings.
Put on masks.
Right. And your authentic self gets hidden.
That's it.
Yeah. And then you're all like...
Yeah, and then it carries off through relationships, through parenting, through all these things.
Yeah, and then the women in your life or other relationships tell you, but you have to feel, and you're like, feel? I stopped feeling a long time ago. Yeah.
And then when you're in sports, it's even worse.
Yeah, and you have to be a certain way.
Yeah, you got to be a warrior.
For men, it's prescribed. Yeah. But for women, it's prescribed too. We have to be,
Now it is even more pressure for women.
Yes, absolutely.
Be great in the workforce, be great at bed, be a great mother, always look hot, all these things.
Yeah.
The pressures of both men and women.
And both now self-perpetuate. Right now, it's self-perpetuating. It's not even that the man is telling the woman any such thing. The woman is doing it to herself. And the man
pressure the woman is putting on
now
themselves,
it's all
right?
inculcated. It's so imbibed.
Why?
Why do women put so much pressure?
Yes.
Because it's something that we've been trained to be good girls. And we've been trained to be obedient. So whatever culture says is the way, we're going to be obedient to the way. Oh, now you want me to be a badass, entrepreneur? I'll be that. Oh, you want me to be skinny? I'll be that. Oh, you want me to have big boobs? I'll do that. We're just trained to be obsequious, subservient. We're such good girls. That's what needs to break in us. That's what we need to teach our girls.
Be a bad girl.
Well, not to be a bad girl, or just think, question, pause, have your own sovereign right. And mothers need to allow their daughters to do that, and fathers too.
Yeah.
But we mothers raising our daughters need to be the example where we question everything. So I have a daughter, and I try to raise her to question everything. Marriage, sexuality, everything. What is beauty? Who is thin? Who is fat? Really? Do you really think you need to get a career? What kind of career? Everything. Mm-hmm. So at least she now doesn't just dogmatically believe she has to be obedient.
Just because you believed it.
Or culture says, or this man will tell you, you're not skinny enough, or the man will tell you, go cook for me. Mm-hmm. No, in everything, pause and question.
Yeah. How old is your daughter?
14.
Ooh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All the guys are coming after her right now.
And I can see, and I have to teach her about who men are and who boys are, and I feel bad.
It's tough.
Because it's kind of bad.
It's tough.
I have to tell her that the boys she's with may not know how to feel. And she'll be all in her feeling heart and thinking she's in her heart and thinking they're in their heart.
No.
Because they're trying to get something. And I have to teach her about the double agenda and who these boys are and feel compassion for them. Mm-hmm. Because they are trained to disconnect. And she's a girl looking to connect. Mm-hmm. So actually, boy and girl should not meet for a long time till the man evolves. Mm. For a long time.
What if they're a younger man who's evolved? Like, I've got a nephew who's
in touch with his feelings.
13, I think. Yeah, 12 or 13. I never know they grow up so fast. But he is like the most intelligent, sensitive, loving, like giving. I'm just like, who are you? Like,
I do believe there's a new wave.
He is like, it's unbelievable.
Right.
Like his level of spirituality.
Yes.
And awareness.
Yes.
And feeling and empathy.
Yes.
I'm just like, you're the ultimate boy.
I think there's a new wave of consciousness coming.
Yeah.
But it's slow, but it is coming because parents are waking up now to a new way of being.
Yes.
So if we wake up, we'll do right by our boys and girls, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. What do you think is the toughest age for parents to be able to be graceful and remove the ego of their kids?
I think it is the teenage years because while before you could still get away with being a monarch. When you're a parent of a teenager, now it becomes clear. Now your time is up. So now you have to deeply sit with who it is you are.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Without the identity of someone needing you. Like your child is now barefaced and bold-faced, telling you, I am entering my own right and might. Now you better figure out what your life is because I may not need you anymore.
Wow.
And I don't want to need you. And you need to release me. And we parents don't want to release.
Why is that? It's like suffocating.
I don't know. For me, I've been celebrating ever since my daughter began, becoming autonomous. I'm like,
sweet.
Cut the cord. I'm like, here, take the scissor. So ready because I want her to launch. But parents don't want that because they're tied up in the identity of being needed. They've so invested in the identity of being a parent that they've forgotten who it is they are. Another egoic mask.
Wow.
Parenting becomes another mask, you see.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mask.
It is.
It's a way to avoid who it is you truly are. And I keep teaching parents that if you don't go back to who it is you are, you will raise your child to have a false self.
Gosh, my mind is being blown right now. What's the greatest lesson then you've faced in the last 14 years? Parenting.
Just the
personally, like a personal thing that you've come up
for sure. That's why I write the books I do. I write them really for to talk to myself,
Me
right?
Too.
Yeah, to embed my own teachings. I open the book and I go, let me learn something, because I think just the humility I've had at my own unconscious, and I've been meditating since I was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. And that was only 5 years ago. I know, but it's been my life's mission, and yet. The force and vigor of this unconsciousness is so profound, and it's my daily challenge. But I rise to it, I'm excited by it. I'm not ashamed when I see my unconsciousness. I'm ready for it. I'm not narcissistic to believe, I'm above it. It's there every day. My voice becomes high-pitched. I become shrill. I interfere almost every day. Right? Because each time I'm afraid she's too entitled. Each time I'm afraid she's too lazy, too disorganized, right? The plethora of fears are endless. I interfere. So then I watch it and then I have to release it. So each day I do, and I'm just humbled by it, by how much there is to do. So much
Really?
work.
What do you think is the greatest lesson you still have yet to learn by being a parent?
I think the absolute, complete trust in their destiny. Like I have it, but I lose it. I forget.
You're questioning. You're
I
like,
go-
you
I go
really
like
want to do
that.
that?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you
So
sure
I can
that's the way you
talk
want to
it,
go?
but when push comes to shove, and I see she's about to say yes to a boy to go out on a little date, and I'm like, no, don't learn that lesson on my time. Learn it when
Right.
you're on your own. Like, take it from me. So while I say I want her to learn her own lessons, then I also want to bypass them. It's hard. It's hard to see your child potentially go through pain.
But don't we need to go through that?
Absolutely. That's it.
In order to learn, we've got to fail over and over and over again
This
to
is the
achieve.
lesson. You just hit it.
There's no
To
way you
let
can have a
your
safe,
child
perfect
go
life.
through pain. This is it.
They're
This
not going
is
to be able
it.
to take on anything in
This
the
is it.
world when they're an adult
Yes.
if they don't experience, in my opinion, extreme
So
discomfort.
this is the greatest lesson for parents. To let your child be rejected, let your child get the C grade, let your child come last in the race, and don't fix it. Don't fix it.
I'm so glad I was messed up as a kid.
I know. Look how great you've become.
Right?
Yeah, because
I mean,
of it. No, really.
I
It's
look
made you
back at
resilient.
it and I'm like, it was the most challenging times.
Yeah.
Right? It was so scary and uncertain. And like, there were many moments where I was like, why am I even here? I would say this when I get in trouble. I'm like, I don't think I should be alive. Like, because I just didn't even feel like accepted by anyone. And I feel like the trauma and the suffering. Now, listen, I'm a white male in America. So it's like I already hear people saying white male privilege, like you have nothing to complain about.
Right.
But we all have an inner world that we
Absolutely.
face with our own demons. No
Absolutely.
matter how good it may look in the outer world, we all have an inner world that is a challenge to overcome. And I just faced a big inner world, demons in the inner world, where it's just like, I just believed that I had to go through it in order to be able to do what I'm doing now.
What do you think allowed you to convert the pain into power?
Being aware and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like ultimately forgiving all the things that happened
Yeah.
to me, for me, whatever you want to call it. And then forgiving myself because I was holding on to so much like resentment and shame and guilt and all these things for myself and anger and for everything, whatever. Every experience that built up, just feeling like I hate the world or whatever, So letting it go and actually coming from a place of gratitude and being like, wow, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have learned this.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been so driven, or I wouldn't have been so compassionate towards other people who have gone through similar things.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't be so loving or understanding. Now, listen, I mess up all the time, and I'm constantly like, my ego is being attacked all the time, but I feel like I'm very aware and grateful for everything.
That's amazing.
How messed up my parents were, like everything. I'm so glad.
Yeah, you didn't go under. You came through. You went through and came out.
But I could have easily gone, to prison
absolutely.
or something,
Absolutely.
So I think it's just having like the awareness enough to be like, okay, I need support. I need help. I need to do the work for years and start to let go of these things and keep doing the work.
I know. For some reason, you entered this life contract with them that somewhere you said to your own destiny, kill my ego right away. Like, don't give me any false sense of comfort. Like, show me the unconsciousness in the world right away. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Because you were obviously ready. But let me tell you,
Sucked.
there's no family. Do you understand? No human being that did not have an unconscious parent to some degree. They had no choice, your parents. They were
they're
conditioned.
doing the best they could do with
they
what
were
they had.
conditioned.
Yeah.
The illness was passed on as a legacy from their parents and generations past. And culture is sick. Culture is diseased in many ways. And we're seeping our children's minds with, separation, fear, lack, the need to keep on doing versus abundance, presence, quiet,
Gratitude.
You are already complete, right? Anything extra you do, great, to pay your rent and buy some makeup, but you don't have to use it to define who it is you are. But perversely today, all the doing is to define who it is you are. And they're two contradicting things. You cannot define who it is you are by a doing. The who you are is beyond doing, you see? It's formless. It's your essence. It's your divinity. So it runs counter. So all these books on resilience and teaching your children to achieve and to have, power and plow through life, it's running counter to who it is they are. If our children came knowing who it is they are, we're taking them out of it into the doing state of the mind, which is disconnected from who it is they are. We need to keep our kids who it is they are. The rest will follow.
How do we keep them who they are?
Well, that's it. That the preservation of that is the mandate of a conscious parent. Because when you treat your who it is you are with honor, because you found it. You won't mess with anyone else's who it is they are. You'll be like, I'm not messing with who it is you are. My daughter, is contrary to my idea of, who a child should be. But it's who it is she is.
So do you accept her?
So it's my struggle, right? Because I have to let go of my ego. But
you're a
I
powerful,
know,
driven woman
but I know that I have
mission.
to. I must, and she is different because I'm ready for this. Because why should she be the same of my fantasy? She is who they come, driven, purposeful, destined, knowing who it is they are. We take them out of it, and then they have to return back to it.
We make them wrong for who they are.
Right, and then they spend their whole life going back to it.
No, you're not gay.
Yeah,
you're straight.
exactly.
No, you're Christian. You're not this.
Right.
You believe in this. You don't believe in that.
Absolutely. Not only do we change who it is they are temperamentally, like why are you so bad or why are you so clumsy, like their nature, right? They're just they're just children. We then contaminate their mind with how to think, tell them who God is, what love is, who to love, how to be. Now we've taken them way off course because we've given them a prescription instead of them evolving into those things on their own.
Discovering
it on their own.
And
now they have to undo that. You know how it is to undo?
It's so hard. So hard. I mean, I feel like I've always questioned things though.
Right.
So I'm glad you're saying this because I feel like I've always been like, no, I'm not going to be the guy that drinks alcohol just because all the other football guys are drinking. I was like, no, that doesn't serve me.
Wow.
No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this other thing.
Right.
I was like, everyone's bullying someone else. Like, let's go hang out with other people and like lift people up. Like, I don't need to do that. So I always question, even though it's at the extent of me being alone. Like I was alone because
there was a price to pay for it.
Massive price
Yes.
of isolation.
Yeah.
But I think it's the reason why I still do this show because I'm constantly seeking what's a different belief, what's another angle, what's something maybe that doesn't fully support me right now that I could shift a little bit that would support me. And it's a constant learning process.
That's why I call all my work the deconstructive process, right? You have to deconstruct in no greater journey than parenting because now you're responsible for providing the template for another human being. You better get your stuff right.
Yeah.
Right? Don't pretend you know something because you don't know it. You've just been digesting somebody else's belief system. Have you deconstructed what is God, who is God, what is religion, what is marriage, what is sexuality, what is empowerment, what is power, what is beauty? Have you really deconstructed, right? So in all my workshops, I teach parents how to deconstruct because be careful what you put into that first foundational layer of your child's mind. It's very hard to undo.
It's hard to undo, right?
And don't make it the child's burden to undo your perversions. Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Now I know. And the kid is like, yeah, but now I'm 40 years old suffering because you told me what was good and what was bad. Now you're telling me, oh, there isn't any good or bad because you've been following conscious parenting. Too late for me, right? So
look at all the mistakes I've made because of you now.
And I've been shaming myself.
And even worse, it's like if you don't follow the beliefs, and I believe in Indian culture, it's like you're out of the family, essentially, from what I understand from my Indian friends. If you don't follow like what the parents want, if you don't marry the person or whatever it is.
Absolutely. There's a strong patriarchy.
Like you're not in the family.
You're not in the family.
You're wrong.
Right.
You're dead to us. And the shame and the guilt that kids must go through to feel like, okay, I just have to do this. Otherwise.
Right. And it's unspoken. You don't even have to speak it in families. It's so conditioned. It's in the air you breathe.
So it's funny then because this Eastern philosophy of like consciousness, it sounds like it's lacking then if that's the way it is.
Oh no, it lacks a lot. Don't worry. Yes.
Even though it's from there, but it's like, no. It's like the worst almost.
No. Well, there is no worse or better. I'm talking about the core of an Eastern mindset. Doesn't mean it's being manifested, right? I mean, only the true people who do the work.
Yeah.
Just because you're Indian or Chinese doesn't mean you're automatically a consummate, understander of Buddhism, right? You're not,
right.
or the real teachings of the mystics. No, it just came from there.
Yeah.
But now no one's following it. Oh, absolutely not. And my culture is famous of, for patriarchy, hierarchy, dominance in the name of tradition. Or they will oust you and outcast you in a minute. Yeah.
So
you dare shame me. No, so children don't shame their parents.
So they follow
They follow the way. Yeah. That's why I had to leave.
They never become themselves.
Well, not never. These are absolutes, but
Right. It's harder to.
They don't look for themselves. There's no question. The self knows right when they're born or a few years in that the self belongs to the parents' idea. So they willingly give it up. I couldn't. That's why I had to leave.
Really?
I couldn't. Not for my parents, but for the culture. It's a cultural thing,
Yeah. Do you feel like your parents were supportive of you, or why did you get into this work in the first place?
No, they were very supportive of me, but I was sickened by what I saw around me.
So they were like, go, do what you want, do who you want.
But within limits, because they were indoctrinated in that culture too.
Sure.
But they were still better than most.
That's great.
But the culture is what the culture is. It's a deadly culture. It's everywhere.
I think every culture is deadly in some way, right?
Yeah. So, but the Indian, because it's the we culture, it's already communal, right? Which is beautiful if it was done right. But it's done only for the sake of the ego of the we. Now, it's not the ego of the I, it's the ego of all of us. So you don't disappoint one parent, you disappoint the whole lineage.
The last
whole
name.
Line,
right?
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The pressure, the weight.
They didn't do community in the beauty of the way community used to be done.
Right. Where kids,
now they're doing
parents,
it.
Or kids, teenagers would have babies when they're like 16, 18, right?
Oh, yeah.
But there was like 100 family members raising them.
Yes.
So it wasn't like
that
this
was
pressure.
a good part. But the negative part, if it was done with the ego of all, then it's the ego of all.
Right. Gosh.
So more pressure, right? You're ruining the family name and the ancestral legacy, and it's suffocating. And it works for kids who are willing to give up themselves. But for a kid like you and I, it will not work. It'll kill us. So we must leave. Then we'll be alone. Then we have to find ourselves,
This is an incredible journey.
Yeah.
What's a question that most parents have that they have the hardest challenge of answering for themselves?
Will my kid be okay? Right? Just the okayness. They suffer from this fear because they live with a morbid and pervasive sense of not okayness. Every day of a parent's life, if they haven't done the work of consciousness, they're walking volcanoes of anxiety.
Is that how you feel as a parent?
Well, I've done a lot of work, so I've released so much anxiety, right? I'm ready to die. Like I could go out right now and die. It's okay. I've been working on death.
Wow.
So if I'm, I'm ready every day is complete.
What if something happens to your child? Have you accepted
same
that?
Same thing. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I have to live with.
Otherwise, you're living in anxiety and stress all day.
You live in anxiety and stress when you think you can control death. When you understand that death is not in your control, therefore you live fully and release when death comes, then you don't live in anxiety and fear. You live in anxiety and fear because you have this narcissistic, grandiose delusion that you can control death. And you haven't become one, you haven't made friends with death. But when you make friends with the ultimate, which is death, then you live fully in the moment. And when your child's destiny is ready to be complete in this life form, once you already understand who am I in this, like I'm just a speck. When your child does end life form, you release her or him. Because we're only here to inhabit life form for a blink.
Yeah.
Anyway. So this idea of permanence is a delusion. This idea of doing to create identity, a delusion. This idea of possessions being ours, children being ours, delusion. So when you penetrate these delusions, you have not no anxiety, less anxiety. Yeah. You're freeing yourself. Right? Now, if someone came and told you, the God came and told you, you're going to die right now. Right? How ready are you to go? Come, go. Let's go.
I don't want to die right now because I feel like I haven't done everything I want to do, but I feel like I've attacked life fully and gone after everything I could up until this moment.
Correct.
Like without regrets of being like, oh, I wish I would have tried that. I wish I would have gone after that. I wish I would have been so scared.
With the resources you had, you lived fully.
I have, yeah.
Right now, everyone will say, I haven't yet done 10,000 things because this is the nature of life. You will never be done.
Right.
You will never, ever be done. So instead of having that as your reason to move forward, you just have, the way I look at it is, with the resources I had, did I try to live as fully? And now that's it. Because there'll always be more. There's always more.
Yeah.
Right.
No. So I feel I mean, I feel okay. I feel like if I was like, would I regret being dead right now that I didn't do something? No.
See, that's it. So you're living your life each day asking, am I living as complete as I can possibly?
Yes.
And again, not to measure it in what did I not do, but how am I being, right? Changing the question to not a doing question to a, am I fully being myself?
Yeah. And so that's how you became close or okay with death, by kind of asking yourself this process or going through the process.
Well, just understanding the nature of life, that it's impermanent.
Yeah.
Right? So to cling on to anything is to suffer. So if I want to suffer, I keep clinging. If I want to stop suffering, I stop clinging.
What's the area of your life you suffered the most?
That I have suffered the most? I think just trying to, for me, you're asking me personally?
Yes.
Yeah.
For you.
The battle for me is living in this life form, knowing that it's such bullshit. It's a game. So how to play this game with playfulness and elegance, and I really don't take it very seriously.
Yeah.
But everyone else does, right? So how to negotiate that, when I don't really now, less and less take it seriously.
Yeah.
So negotiating the form-based attachments that everyone has with my understanding that this is all formlessness.
Yeah. It's going to be over before we know it.
Yeah. And just like juxtaposing that, trying to take it seriously.
What about an area in your life that you suffered the most, whether it be through childhood or through early 20s? Was there a moment or a stage of years or that you were suffering that you can remember?
Well, I didn't suffer much.
You didn't suffer much.
No.
That's good.
Yeah, I entered this with a little bit of joy. Yeah.
That's
I know
great.
most people entered through
Was
suffering.
there like a relationship that you...
And so when I did psychology, I did my PhD. You have to write papers on how did I suffer. I was like, what? No, but then I had some negative things. I'm like, hallelujah. Thank you, that uncle who tried to feel me up. Like, thank you. Like something to write about. Because I had pretty wholesome parents.
Oh, that's great.
But I still had society around me. So my suffering came from being a girl in Indian culture and having unconscious men all around me and having to deal with that.
Right.
Very hard.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Hard because women are supposed to be a certain way in India.
Yes.
And men, are aggressive and unconscious and repressed. So growing up as a girl and then grew up to be a teenager, I could never fully be in my body or own my sexuality. Because if I was too much, then the onslaught and the payback of that was too much.
Yes.
So I used to hide. So I put on weight. I hid. I was like, let me just
yourself.
be, or just like dumb myself, dim myself,
Not be seen, yeah.
not be seen. And then I just waited to leave. And the minute I could leave, and then I began like undimming and undumbing myself. But I dumbed and dimmed a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You have to do that to survive. That's the ego.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah. Okay, a few questions left for you because I know you got to run, but I'm fascinated here. How can a man be the best parent that he can be?
Yeah.
Because we've talked a lot about, I think, your experience as a female, but how can a man raise a son, a daughter with the pressure that men feel, which are different than women,
very
right?
different.
Not more or less, but just like
completely
its own level
different.
of pressure.
Yes.
So
And in many ways, men are absolved from the intensity of that bond, and they lose because of that. They lose because the man is in the doing, therefore in the head, therefore in the disconnection,
not in the heart,
or in their in their penis. So head or penis, but there's the heart here.
It's like it goes around.
Yeah. So the heart needs to be awakened, and if not the partner, which is usually not the case, right? The partner is often bypassed. It's hard for a man to truly surrender to their partner, but a child has the potential to allow them to bypass that circuitry and enter the heart.
Wow.
But many men are missing that opportunity because for the first 10 years, typically of a family's life, they're out there, they're working, they have to pay for tuition, the woman is staying at home. The way it's set up culturally is that the woman stays at home. So she's losing out from the doing and the achieving that she needs. And the man is divested of the connection and the quietude that he needs. And so it's impossible. And the first 10 years are really the years to allow for that embedding to occur between father and child. They lose that. So the father's just like, oh, I'll just play baseball. But that's a doing. Or I'll just wait till he can hike with me. That's a doing. The real essence of childhood is that 0 to 6, where the child is not a doer yet. The child is a beer and invites us all to be in the present moment. And if you lose the first 6 years of entering and being invited into the child's being world, like if you're with a child 0 to 6, it's a trip. It's like nothing else, because no one lives in the present moment like a child. Like I remember the epiphany I had because I would keep like wanting my child to get to bed, or my infant, my 2-year-old, or, brush their teeth, or doing. And then it hit me, oh my God, everything I practice in meditation is right here in front of me. Like slow the hell down. Have no agenda. There is no time. And we are nonverbal. We're fully present. That's when I realized I am learning all the lessons I'm reading about or meditating about here in this relationship. So therefore, this child is my teacher. That's when the epiphany came, when I realized all I wanted was to do to my child. Like, come on. Let's go to the park. Let's go use a trampoline. Let's learn ABCs. Let's
take a class.
I just wanted to I was making my child my next PhD, my project. I was very masculine.
So
most parents
project.
we're masculine. We have to enter the feminine, into the heart with a 0 to 6. But very few parents, including mothers, are capitalizing on this spiritual jewel that's the 0 to 6, because it's painful too. I mean, you have to slow beyond slow.
You have to awaken too.
You have to be so full and here. And there's no payback really, because they're not giving you much.
No, nothing.
They're just giving you love, but they're not like intellectually stimulating you. They're not yet winning medals. They're not yet winning the spelling bee. So you're like, oh, you're not like doing anything for my ego. Why am I here? Oh, I'm here because I have to just be here. Like I have to just enter the present moment. 0 to 6 is the most profound spiritual transformation you can go through with a child. And we're all missing it. We're all missing it. I almost missed it.
Okay, next time you're back in LA, we're going to have to dive in deeper on this topic, because I could go on for this for a long time. But I want to ask the final couple questions to be respectful of time. This is called the 3 truths. Okay. So imagine you jumped off this building right now and it was your last moment. And all your work has been erased. Everything, all the books, this video, this interview is gone.
Even erased in people's consciousness?
Their consciousness.
It's all erased.
Gone.
Yeah. It didn't exist.
Because it didn't exist in the first place, right?
Yeah, it didn't. Right.
So, but you had a piece of paper right here. I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and you get to write down 3 lessons that you know to be true from all your experience in life. The 3 truths that this is the only thing that people could live and be remembered by in your message. You write it down, you jump off, life is over.
Yeah.
But what would those 3 truths be
if
it was the last day for you?
Okay. The first one is that life is never over. Life keeps transforming. Just this form is over. The second one is that all life attachments in form are an illusion. All these attachments you're holding on to are an illusion. They will never take you to who it is you are. And the third one would be that the only moment and thing and entity and relationship of relevance is the one you have with yourself in the now. So you can erase everything. It really doesn't matter to me.
Well, there you go. I like that. Those are good.
Because it's never over.
Yes.
If it's meant to come back, it'll come back in another consciousness. It was only form. Everything is really formless. So just because it's my book in form, it was taken from formless energy anyway. And the only moment is now. So if it was, you're talking about yesterday or the moment before, I only care about this moment.
Yeah. Before I ask the final question, I want to make sure you guys get the new book. It's called The Awakened Family by Dr. Shefali. Make sure you guys go pick it up. Where can people connect with you? On your website or online? And you also have an event coming up. So you want to talk about that?
Yes. So they can connect to me on my website, drshefali.com, and come to my event in Long Beach, California in a month in September, where I help everyone, children of parents, adult children of parents, and parents, to deconstruct all that I've been talking about and learn how to awaken to their truest selves. The event is called Evolve, the Conscious Way, and it's a 3-day sojourn and adventure into the awakened heart. So if they go to my website, they
parents
can...
and kids.
No, it's for adult children.
Adult children.
Like you,
Okay.
suffering the damage of their unconscious parents
Got
and
it.
needing to heal. And for parents wanting tools to change their relationships from fear to connection. So it's 3 days, Long Beach,
Amazing.
California. I also have added a day of meditation on the 18th. So the main weekend is 15th to the 17th of September. And
Awesome.
an additional day of meditation.
drshefali.com
Yes.
for the information,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
I highly recommend checking that out. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Before I ask the final question, I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Dr. Shefali, for being so loving, for being so giving, and for being a vessel to share such wealth of information with all of us, because there's so much suffering in the world, as you know, and there's so much confusion of how to be a human being and how to fully accept who we are. There's so much disconnect in American society and culture right now with different views, beliefs, everything. So I believe your message is so powerful for all humans.
Thank you.
To rise into who we're being and how we can just be better in general and really help us connect the human race as one. One family, one race, one everything.
Yes.
So I acknowledge you for the work you're
Thank
doing
you.
and for your surrender to life and death and for just being you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you. And I have one final question. It's what's your definition of greatness?
Authenticity. Daring to live your truth.
Dr. Shefali, thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Appreciate it.